What is up, everybody? Welcome to a brand new episode of Destination the Show. This is episode 96. The Minnesota Twins fire Rocco Baldelli. My name is Jamie Cameron, joined as always by Jeremy Nygaard. Jeremy, what's happening, man? Interesting day.
Yeah. And then I turn on my computer and I can't hear anything. So, yeah, there's been a lot since we last talked. Some I think we maybe saw coming. Some things in the world maybe we didn't see coming.
Yep.
So it'll be fun to shoot the breeze about those things. How's life as a gymnastics dad?
Oh my God. So meet season started last week. So picture this. Your kid's session starts at 7 in Bloomington, which is about a 40 minute drive from where we live.
Okay.
Get there. They're running way behind already. And they're every session finishes with awards, and they are supposed to start awards for this session at 9:30. They don't start till 10:40. So we ended up home at midnight. It was about 5.5 to 6 hours of being there for about 4 minutes of performance.
Yeah.
Good times.
Yeah, that's exactly how I would describe it.
But it went well, so who's complaining? Yeah, dude. So excited to get into all of the things. Let's knock out the housekeeping quick, and then we can jump into a busy day in the sports world and the Twin Cities sports world. I kind of want to get your take on something else too here. Ways that you can support the show. You can like and subscribe on your preferred podcast platform of choice. You can find all of our yammerings on YouTube. The handle there is at Destination the Show. If you got questions, you can reach out to us on Twitter at DTS_pod1 is the handle there. A Blue Sky at Destination the Show, or email destinationshow@gmail.com. Did you happen, Jeremy, to come across an exit interview / opening statement from one Nafisa Collier today at the Minnesota Lynx's end of season media days? Because that was quite the afternoon nightcap after the Rocco news. Just curious your take on that before we jump to all things Twins.
Yeah, so my internet signal looks like it's awful, so I did not hear a lot of what you said, but I do know that you want to talk about Nafisa Collier's comments.
Yeah.
And the interesting, the perspective on that is she founded, her husband runs a league that right now isn't in direct competition with the league that she plays in.
Could be, though.
But it could be. And so it's like if she fired all the shots. And basically, from my perspective, you've given the commissioner of that league everything she needs if they want to full on suspend her, right? That wouldn't be unheard of. So you either have to listen to it and fix things, or you bring the hammer down. And I think if you do that, Collier is ready to just say, I'll walk away from this league. I don't need you, because she doesn't. And then what she could certainly do is all of the professional female players could go back to playing overseas, which happens opposite of the WNBA, right?
Yep.
And then Collier's league could just shift to the non-summer months, which would maybe be potentially better for ratings anyway, and compete directly with the WNBA. It's a weird feeling. Now, is there anything that's going to happen publicly here soon? I kind of doubt it, because the WNBA final starts now, right?
Yep.
And so it would be best for their business to let the games happen. But when you have one of the top players, one of the most respected players, firing all the shots, it's going to be an interesting time. And she used the big names, right? Paige Beckers, Caitlin Clark, Angel Reese. And if they want to play in Collier's league, I think she's convinced, right or wrong, that her husband can run a league better than Karen. What's her name that runs the WNBA? It's not Karen. It's not Karen. But
Engelbert.
Yeah, what's her first name? Is it Karen?
Kathy.
Karen. Kathy. See, that sounds right. So, yeah, shots fired, and we'll see what comes out of it.
I just thought it was so interesting, dude. Like, I mean, agree, of course, with everything you say. Just like, but just also like the level of poise and execution on her comments, I thought was really impressive. Picking that moment to say everything she said ahead of a CBA negotiation, I found really interesting because baseball is going to be in a similar situation a year or so from now with potentially contentious CBA negotiations looming. And so I just thought it was it was just like a beautiful example of an athlete knowing the sway that they have and like really using that in a way that I felt like balanced speaking like truth to power, but doing so in a way that could be received. Like she crossed no lines. I thought it was great. It was awesome.
Yeah. So one thing I saw in response to that, Bobby Marks is a former, I think, cap specialist for someone in the NBA. He does a lot of cap stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And he just like retweeted that and said, just some back of the napkins math. If game 3, so the game that the Lynx lost had, I don't know what the attendance was, 18,000 people.
Sure.
At $15 a piece, you're talking like $800,000
mm-hmm.
in revenue on ticket sales
just for the game
for one game.
Yep.
And the team's salary cap is 1.5 million. Like, where is this money going? And that's not to say that it's not proven that the WNBA for many years had teams and league operating at a loss. Like that's true, right?
Mm-hmm.
Teams folded, teams moved, all of those things happened. But right now in 2025, that league is popular. People watch it, right? I watched. I'm not going to say I watched over half the games, but I watched quite a few of their games and watched quite a few of their games last year. And so there's money being made and it's not being reinvested. And that's where it becomes kind of dicey because these are the NBA owners that also own the WNBA teams, right? So it's not like this revenue sharing type model just because it was operated at a loss. So yeah, the CBA there's definitely going to be a lockout or strike or however this is going to work, just because the business has been so off and it's shifted. And I don't know how, unless you have very reasonable people, which you typically don't when one of them has lots and lots of money, come to some sort of agreement. And it's kind of sad because right now it's like things are looking up. You have, I believe I read that there's 5 now sophomores in high school in the state of Minnesota. There was 5 of them that had D1 offers as freshmen, like Adrian Peterson's daughter. There's a whole group of them. Like, this is the popularity for women's basketball is skyrocketing right now.
And Minnesota's a basketball state, as we know.
Yeah, hotbed.
Love it. Okay, in other news today, Rocco Baldelli was fired by the Minnesota Twins. When did this come out, Jeremy? Yesterday, and then I think they had the season debrief press conference at Target Field today, which I'm sure we'll get plenty of details on later.
Yes, I was there if we want to add some details in later, but we can start with the Rocco stuff later. I mean, now, whatever you want to do.
Okay. So let's talk about Rocco. Surprised, expected. What do you make of the move overall? Let's start high level.
Okay, so when I saw the email, it did, like, okay, let's back up. Going into Monday, there's going to be managers fired, and I remember thinking, I see the first one gone, and I'm like, does Rocco get fired today? And I'm still leaning on this is a franchise that doesn't fire people, right? And that's just not true anymore. didn't shock me that a move was made once it was made. But yeah, I mean, I think, if I had to put money on it, I would have said that he was going to get fired. But at the same time, they exercise his option.
So weird.
The whole feeling of it was weird. That doesn't come as a surprise because they were bad, right?
Mm-hmm.
But they traded. That to me is it probably had to happen because you can't fire all your players, even though they kind of did.
Okay, so working through some technical difficulties. So if you have any interruptions, apologies. We're having some internet challenges this evening. So yeah, I think I kind of agree with you, I guess, Jeremy, of like could have seen this going either way, but probably fell on the side of like, I don't know, it's like 60-40 that I expected this to happen versus not. I guess the question is, or the wondering I have is like, do you think it's fair to say that this was both expected and Rocco is absolutely being made kind of a scapegoat for how the last season and a half went? And I'm rewinding to the end of 2024, the meltdown there, in addition to obviously the vast majority of this year outside of the 13-game win streak. Is he a scapegoat for the org as a whole and the front office?
Yeah, 100%. And the manager always is. And that's what makes it, a desirable job, but one that changes so quickly because guys, you could be great one year and just get fired halfway through the next. And so that was when they traded 10 guys and you knew they were going to lose 90 games. That was kind of it's got to be Rocco, right? They're not firing. They can't get rid of all the players, right? And they can't. Mm-hmm. Falvey's not going to fire himself. So that's where it has to be Rocco.
Yeah, for sure. I guess, like, I don't know. I'm having a hard time getting, and not energized. That's not the right word, right? Because I think some people are excited by change and the prospect of it potentially. I'm curious for your take, but I guess I just don't feel like managers are that impactful in the grand scheme of things. And like, changing Rocco to whoever is next feels like it won't have a particularly material impact on how the team does or how the organization does heading into 2026. Like, I guess the question buried here, Jeremy, is like, do you think managers matter at all?
Yeah. I mean, you've seen teams do better or worse, right? Under different managers. I think like Pat Murphy for the Brewers made a huge difference. Council was good, but then you see, but I don't think it's in baseball. I think it's less than in football, and potentially, I mean, and less in basketball, but there is certainly things that can happen, but it's such a mental thing, I think, in baseball more than the other sport. So it's like almost how they are as a mental coach, because when things go wrong mentally, you're going downhill, and it's hard to recover. And I think Rocco couldn't have them recover last year, and it went on for a year and a half. And the interesting thing is talking about the types of names that may be considered for the future.
Yeah. So what's your take on that? What are you looking for in a new manager? Do you want someone more like authoritarian? Like I saw a rumor this evening that I don't know if it's true, that Albert Pujols has potentially emerged as a candidate to be the Angels' next manager, which would be super interesting and like definitely falls into that like ex-player archetype. We'll see if that comes to fruition or not. But what's your take both on like any hot candidates from your perspective or candidates that would excite you, and are there particular traits or kind of tendencies that you're looking for in a manager that you think might make a difference to an org that's just like they're in a valley, man, a big valley. It's been a couple of seasons now. They've missed the playoffs 4 of the last 5 years. This is not an energized fan base. So what would you target if it was you?
Well, I think what we've seen around the league is success with like younger former players, right? The Kelly that the Pirates hired, it's not that the Pirates lit the world on fire, but they got better. Stephen Vogt has had success.
For sure.
So if you can find players like that, Mike Redmond was always considered kind of that name. I feel like that ship with the Twins has probably sailed because the guys that are in the organization have no idea who Mike Redmond is.
Yeah.
This morning I was thinking about like, is there any like super popular, well-respected players, former Twins that are still around the organization that would have any desire in coaching? Like Joe Mauer would fit the bill, but I think Joe Mauer has zero desire to be manager, right?
Yes.
Justin Morneau would 100% fit that description. I don't think Morneau has any desire in managing. Trevor Plouffe, Michael Kadire, Denard Span, like all of those guys, I think would be the type of personality that would be good at leading a ball club. I don't think that any of them really have that desire. The only name that I could think of was Torrey Hunter, and I'm like, he's talked about it. He's said he's had interest in it. Right now, I think.
Has he really? I guess I missed that.
Yeah, it was last year, 2 years ago.
Okay.
It was a while ago. And currently he's employed by the Angels. And so Parker actually tweeted that this morning.
Okay.
And then when the Angels announced that their manager, Washington, and whoever replaced Washington wouldn't be returning, I actually saw Torrey Hunter's name as a possible candidate.
Okay.
But that would be like that was, to me, I'm like, okay, that would be interesting. Derek Shelton, who was very well respected as Rocco's bench coach before he was hired in Pittsburgh, I saw his name on a list. I'm like, yep, that makes sense. James Rosen, I think I saw his name on a list. Just there's people that have connections to the franchise. I think ultimately what's probably going to happen is it's going to be a Guardian guy, right? Fellow, he's going to go back to Cleveland and pluck a guy that he wants. After Milwaukee having the success that they had going to the college ranks, it does make me curious if that's something that the Twins would consider. And I just don't know who the right one would be. I think with recruiting and NIL and that being such a big thing, like there may be college coaches that are looking to get out of college coaching, right? We've seen that in football. We've seen that in basketball. Is that a potential in baseball? I feel like it's going to be a super, super wide net, and I don't really have a great sense of what directions they'll cast that net.
Yeah, for sure. I agree. I guess like for me, and I'm curious for your take on this, a lot of how whether this move really makes sense is kind of going to boil down to what else the Twins do in the offseason. Because if you ditch Rocco and bring in a new guy, unless you go through a more extensive process of change, and to me that means some changes in player development as analyzed by the front office, that means absolutely some changes in the roster. Like I'm
100%.
much more ready to see some players get fired than I am to see the manager get fired personally. Unless you do that as well, bring in a new guy. I'm not going to say it's unappealing, because who wouldn't want to be an MLB manager if you work in baseball? But like, I don't know that you're setting that person up for success if you trot out a similar team to the one that played down the back half of this season. That really just, I mean, if we keep it real, it's just a massive talent deficit. They were just not good players. There were too many not good players for that team to be successful. And so I'm really interested, and it's such a cop-out answer, but I'm really interested to see what else the org does. And I think that's going to color how we view the Rocco firing and who they ultimately bring in to replace him.
But I think that's that's where this gets to be messy, because if this roster changes, as you suggest it should, and I 100% agree with, it's not going to get more talented, right? They're not going to spend money. So what are the potential changes? There's 3 of them, right? There's trade Pablo Lopez. It gets worse. Trade Joe Ryan. Trade Byron Buxton. Like, you decimate the high level major league talent to bring in a bunch of younger dudes and probably start that wave earlier than it's supposed to be. And then it becomes we're going to give you a handful of years with the Walker Jenkins of the world, the Luke Keishels of the world, the Manuel Rodriguez of the world, the pitchers that are close, right? The Connor Prelips, and next year you're going to lose 100 games, but you're going to do it with guys that are going to develop at the big league level. I don't see any world where the Twins, like, how if you're cutting payroll, you've traded all your assets, most of your assets, how is a 26 roster going to be more equipped to compete? It's not.
It's
right?
it's hard. It's really hard to envision a world in which I think, like Falvey said today, that he didn't know what the budget is for next year, which seems
so
weird.
They pretty much indicated that until they know who these limited partners are for certain, they're not going to speak to anything payroll related, and everything is being put into the resources of finding a new manager, because that does not require as much input from new limited partners and ownership. So I mean, for the next month, that's all we're really going to hear is about potential candidates. And I think, externally right now, James Rosen and Derek Shelton are probably the lead candidates from what we were hearing in the last couple of weeks around the ballpark. I mean, ideally, I think Torrey Hunter would be great. He would be the perfect mentor to kind of, guide Royce Lewis to his full potential, since he's been around him for such a long time in most of his professional life. So I think that would be a great one for Twins fans, but also that comes with, the stigma of the negative sides of being a manager, which, we saw with Paul Molitor, a fan favorite player throughout his entire career in Minnesota, no matter where he was playing. But also, when he was not doing well with some of his decision making, he got a lot of the brunt of the heat, as any manager does. So do we want to have Torrey Hunter be that guy? I don't know. But I mean, that's the thing they're going to be discussing a lot over the next month, is these options for manager. Payroll, as it stands, is going to be where it's at right now. There wasn't too much of a clear answer on who they would trade, if anyone, but it sounds like they're intended on keeping Ryan, Lopez, and Buxton together right now. Obviously, that could easily change, but that is hey, I'm not saying you have to agree with it, but that's just what Falvey said today.
Yeah. I guess, thanks for all of that, Theo. I feel like that just brings me back to, like, not caring about who the new manager is, honestly. If your MO as new manager of the Minnesota Twins is to get a poor roster or a subpar roster, which is what this is currently, and, like, let's say best case scenario, you keep that rotation together and there's not significant adds to the offense. And even if you add those prospects, Erod, Jenkins, Culpepper, whoever, they're going to need time to adjust to the major league pitching. I don't think let's put it this way. I don't think there's any manager who can influence outside of the talent they're given. Like, can you manage it well? Yes. Can you create good clubhouse culture and chemistry? Yes. If you have a bad collection of players or a subpar collection of players, can you win? No, not in my opinion.
So Trevor Plouffe weighed in on this and said that the only right answers are Torrey Hunter and Justin Morneau.
Well, he's going to boost up his old teammates no matter what. So,
sure.
But
doesn't Justin Morneau have a billion like young kids?
I think
he's not
4.
Okay.
Yeah.
But he coaches his so his son must be like in 7th grade, because my brother had to coach against him in an actual baseball game. Like, think about that.
Bet he's real good.
It'd be like if I'm coaching a baseball team and my kids look at me And they look across and they see Justin Morneau. They're probably like, well, we're screwed. Like,
Yeah.
right? I mean,
Yeah.
and so if there's an interest there, I just don't know. I don't know. I mean, managers have kids, right? Baldelli has kids. Like, you do it with kids, but I would, if Justin Morneau had any interest in being in the dugout, that would be a phenomenal choice to make.
Mm-hmm. Well,
Right?
Torrey Hunter's kids are all adults now, so that makes it a little easier for him. And I mean, it wouldn't surprise me just given how young Rocco's family is. I mean, he will easily get a job in baseball no matter where he ends up, but it wouldn't surprise me if he takes a year off just to spend time with his family and just have that time back with them before he takes whatever job is next, just to add that part in. So, I mean, that's obviously a big factor. I mean, you're doing so much, you're sacrificing a lot of the family life when you're in these types of roles. But I think if we're taking things in from that perspective, it would be easiest for Torrey Hunter to fill in, who's been wanting a job like this for a long while and, you know, doesn't have to worry about taking care of his kids because they're all adults now.
If you guys could, okay, so the last kind of manager point I wanted to talk about was like what other it's to the like what other changes might we see ahead of 2026? Because I do think that's potentially interesting. I think we can all agree that by firing Rocco, that is the start or the beginning of a process of admission that what the Twins have done in the past couple of years has not worked well. Like there's hard evidence to that of like missing the playoffs in 4 out of 5 seasons. So let me throw you guys this question. If you could make one or two, like what are the 1 or 2 changes in the org you would like to see? Obviously new ownership is off the table, but what are the 1 or 2 changes or shifts that you would like to see in the org ahead of 2026?
I think better hitting development is something we could all agree on because it's just not been there for the last 5 years plus.
And that's so like, and this is one of those things, right, where like, do we have like enough information? Probably not. But I think specifically like at the the transition from the upper levels to the majors seems to be like the tipping point. That seems to be a big challenge, right? Because if you look at the lower levels, you have guys like Kalen Culpepper or Merrick Houston getting off to a good start, or like Brooks Lee just breezed through the low levels of the minors. But there seems to be this kind of, I don't know, this sticking point in the transition from AAA to the majors and establishing success in the majors. And I would like to know and understand more about what is the Twins' organizational approach to hitting development. What are you trying to do for guys? Because I think we know that for pitching, they're going to try and add velo. They're going to try and develop arsenals, add pitches. Like we know the things that they do really well. And I don't know what that is for hitting anymore since we left like Bomba Squad. We want guys to pull a ball in the air. Like what is the hitting approach now? I'm really not sure what it is, and that's the question I would most like to be answered by someone in the org.
Right, but at the same time, it's just the development of players. I can't imagine that it's that much different. Like the path, the plans, like the ideas are much different than any other team around the league.
I don't agree with that at all. I think like, so sorry to cut across you so quickly, Jeremy, but like the Rockies famously have like 5 people working on like in their like front office on like what we think of as like the baseball like front office and ops department. So I do think that like there's significant variation in what player development looks like, what different organizations do well, and even down to like the extent to which teams funnel resources into their player development and front offices. And so like it's either that or there's just a talent deficit and the Twins are not drafting the right hitters. But we see examples of guys like Julian and Royce Lewis who come up, experience some level of success or even like a lot of success, and then they suddenly fall off the face of the earth. So I don't
know. You picked the Rockies.
Hey, you said
right?
that you said it was consistent from team to team. I did.
Well, and that's the thing. Like, you're going to pick the teams that do it right. So get with the Dodgers and figure it out, right? But what's the trend that we've seen over these last handful of years? Like, the Twins have been picked over by other organizations.
On the hitting side,
though? I mean, the hitting coach from last year went and had success with Toronto. The hitting coach from before that went and had success with other teams. Like,
so that's yeah. No, you're right. And that's the thing. You said get with the Dodgers. Popkins came from the Dodgers organization into the Twins before going to the Blue Jays. So the only stop in which he didn't experience success was in the majors with Minnesota. Before that, he had success in the minors with the Dodgers, and since then in the majors with the Blue Jays. It's just like confounding, and I realize I'm talking in circles. I don't know why Minnesota is a black hole for offense.
Yeah, well, maybe we do, because who's the guy calling the shots?
I don't know.
Hitting wise?
Is this like a trick question?
In general, who's the guy calling the shots? Who does that's who Popkins answered to, right? Derek Felvey. Mm-hmm. What is Derek Felvey's background?
Pitching development in Cleveland.
So if there's not a guy for hitting, Felvey's not the answer when it comes to hitting, and Felvey doesn't have an answer when it comes to hitting. The pitching has been, I mean, look at the last week of the season. That's a pretty small sample size, but
yeah, those are really good.
They can identify and have the right arms. Like, Taj Bradley's going to be fine. Zebby's going to be good. Like, there's a whole bunch of arms in the minor leagues too, but there's not that equivalent on the hitting side. And I don't know what that right answer is and where that guy comes from and what his job is. But to me, it's the void here is Derek Felvey doesn't know about hitting, and Derek Felvey can't hire the right guy about hitting. And then because of that, guys aren't hitting. Pretty simple, right?
I don't know. I mean, like, maybe, yes. And I'm still lost in the sauce of, like, how you have so many guys experiencing solid levels of success at the lower levels of the minors and, like, getting hyper-focused on what is the problem at the upper levels or what's not translating at the major league level.
Well, here's maybe oversimplifying it. As a pitcher, you are in control, right? So you change your repertoire, you do this, you do this. That's the action. That's where everything starts. So you don't have to necessarily worry about what's across from you. It's the action, right? As a hitter, you have to react to what a pitcher's doing. So if you have guys that are thinking too much, you're going to be screwed. You're up there, you're thinking, and you're trying to react to a guy throwing a ball 100 miles an hour. Good luck. That just ain't going to be good. So
is your hypothesis that it is actually potentially less about approach and more about translation or communication of the ideas of what the Twins are looking for offensively to their players?
All of those things, right? Like, here's the approach we want you to have, but also think about this, and this, and the analytics say this. Why do you think Royce Lewis is pissed off during the season? Like, they want me to change things in the year, right? I can't, like, and the way what he said came off as, wow, this doesn't look good for Royce Lewis. But if you take it for what it is, like, if he's being told something different every time he goes up in the box and you go up there lost, do you have any chance against Tariq Skubal? I would argue that you probably don't. And Royce Lewis went up there as a rookie and just swung, right? He's like, I'm just going to hit grand slams. And then he did. And now it's like, hey, Royce, we're going to do this, and we're going to change your leg kick, and we're going to change your swing. We don't want you to do this and doing this, and now try this. And then he's going to bat 190, and we're going to wonder what's wrong with him. And so I think that sort of thing is easier to do with the guy that has the ball in his hand, and much more difficult for the guy who's trying to hit the ball.
Mm-hmm. I would say there's other examples of that, like Austin Martin when he was in the lower levels. They tried to add power, and that did not work. I think you definitely hit the nail on the head here with you can make that work for pitching, but you have to find a way to just let hitters play to their strengths and not try to have them tinker with things too much. And even when they're at AAA and they're trying to have them change their approach at the plate, they could really perform poorly. And that's what we saw with Jose Miranda all year this year, because he had his swing messed up in spring training. He tried to fix it all year, and everything he was doing just did not work, and he was falling behind pitchers so frequently because of that.
And when did Jose Miranda figure out his swing?
Maybe last year, but then he lost it.
Before that, didn't he come back from not being coached the COVID year, and then he was like, oh, he's a new person. Like
so Jeremy's approach to hitting coaching, it sounds like it's just leave guys alone and don't talk to them.
No,
don't talk to the hitters.
But I think there's a you can change one thing at a time slowly. Like, they're not major league hitters because they got lucky. They're major league hitters because they freaking knew how to hit.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And if the more you throw at somebody, I think the harder it is to make those adjustments. And that would be a reason why Eddie Julian can go to the World Baseball Classic and be great, and come back in spring training and be great, and be in the regular season and be great. And then all of a sudden things start to not be great and just totally cascade the wrong direction. I'm not saying I got all the answers. I'm not saying I even have some of the answers. But,
new hitting coach Jeremy Nygaard waiting in the wings.
And I'd be like, yeah, keep doing that. And when someone says that things don't feel right, or you get something small on film and you show them, right? Because where your hand placement is all of a sudden different. Like, look at Miguel Sano. Okay. I love Miguel Sano. I got a whole bunch of Miguel Sano stuff right over there.
Weird.
Dude's stance and swing look different like every 2 months for the whole duration of the end of his Twins career. That just it didn't work. And it's like, how much can you change? And Buxton, like, he'll tinker a little bit, but by and large, Byron Buxton's swing looks the same when he's healthy as it has for quite some time, with some changes because he's put on 100 pounds of man muscle. But I just think the more you try to change when you don't have control of what's happening, the holes in your swing are going to open up, and you're not going to have success, and that becomes a huge mental thing. And if you don't have it mentally in baseball, it's a problem.
I definitely agree somewhat with the point that you're making. I think my last thing I would say on the hitting thing is, like, we're going to retrofit whatever happens. We're going to fit a narrative to whatever happens, right? Like, if the Twins just had an awesome season, we're kicking off a wild card series today, we might be talking about, wow, the Twins' offensive approach, because they are such great communicators and they provide their hitters with so much information and blah, 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 blah. Right. But the fact of the matter is, because it hasn't worked, this is what we have identified as a root cause without, of course, really having anywhere near the type of information that we would need to say that. However, we are both agreed that some kind of turnover in personnel, major league hitting development, etc., will be something worth watching this offseason prior to 2026. Is that fair? Can we agree on that?
Yes.
Okay. Can we talk about the draft lottery now?
I'd love to.
Okay. Minnesota Twins, Jeremy, finished with the second best overall odds in the 2026 draft lottery at 22.27%. I simmed the draft lottery 100 times today.
Of course you did. Of course.
Because I'm a productive worker. Would you like to know what happened in my 100 simulations?
I can't wait to hear, to be honest.
So just so you know, every time I sim the draft lottery, I'm keeping a record of where they finish, and I'm gonna have
Just
an
the
absolute.
Or anybody?
Huh?
Was it just the Twins, or you kept track
Just
of
the Twins. Yeah, I don't care about anyone else.
Okay, fair.
I'm gonna have a huge sample size of draft lottery sims by the time that we get there, because I want to feel comfortable in knowing what the possibilities are. So I'm creating my own statistical model here.
Love it. So the lowest they can pick is 8th.
Correct.
How many times out of 100 did they pick 8th?
3.
And
I felt like that was unreasonably high. So we'll go from lowest possible pick to highest. So the lowest they can pick, as you mentioned, is 8th. The highest is obviously 1st. They out of 100 simulations, they picked 8th 3 times. They picked 7th 10 times.
Oof.
They picked 6th 10 times.
Okay.
They picked 5th 14 times.
Not great.
They picked 4th 11 times.
Okay.
They picked 3rd 20 times.
Okay.
They picked 2nd 14 times. And they picked 1st 18 times.
18. Okay. That's higher than I would have guessed.
So here's how I've chosen to think about this, at least until a listener gets in touch and gives us a better kind of thinking frame. I'm just thinking about, like, do they have a top 3 pick? Because that gives you some wiggle room to move up one and move down one. And that feels comfy to me, knowing the talent at the top of this draft class. Out of 100 simulations, they finished with a top 3 pick in 52.
Okay.
So roughly 50% of the time. We will update with another 100 simulations next week.
So you tell me it's a coin flip whether they'll be in the top 3 or not in the top 3.
As of this week, yes.
I'm gonna convince myself, so as to not be disappointed, that it's not going to be a top 3 pick. But really, anything not top 1 at this point in time is going to feel disappointing.
Yeah. I mean, there is a clear consensus number 1. We've talked about him, Brock Shalowski. At the moment, there's a clear number 1 overall prep player. That's Grady Emerson, who, it was brought to my attention today, was struck out 3 times in a game as a sophomore by one Dason Hill in a high school game in Texas. And I'm going to throw another name in the mix. So what I want to do is just start casually introducing guys at a very high level who I've seen the Twins like connected to just through like way too far in advance mock drafts. AJ Gracia, Jeremy, is another guy I think we should pay attention to. He is a 6'4", 200-pound left-handed hitting outfielder who played for Duke, transferred to Virginia, and does a lot of everything well at the plate. Had a big freshman season, had a really slow start as a sophomore last year, but ended up hitting 293, 449, 558 with 15 bombs as a sophomore. Was in the Golden Spikes mix his freshman year. And I think he's another one of the college guys who is going to go in the top 10 somewhere. So walks a lot, controls the strike zone well. Chance to get a left-handed hitting outfielder right, as opposed to Trevor Larnach.
I think, the thing that I always come back to, well, maybe not always, but like when Paul Skeens went first, the ability to add like undeniably high arm talent to an organization. It's if you have that opportunity, to me it's really hard to pass on, even though it's someone that's going to pitch once every 5 days, right? If it's close, I say go with a hitter that can impact your game every game.
Yep.
But if somebody were to emerge as a Skeensian type, which that's way up here, right? The Strasburgs, the Skeens.
Yep.
I would totally be open to that. I mean, Cholowski is right now number one, and there's no doubt. But if you're talking about adding another prep guy, which I love, right? Those are
Yes,
the
you
most
do.
demographic. I do always have to look at who's the best college pitcher available, and like Paul Skeens, man, like he wasn't the number one. He wasn't even on the radar at this point of his draft year.
He really
Right? It
wasn't.
was Dollander, and he was lower. So you look for someone to make a jump like that, and that upsets the whole belief that you have about a draft class. So right now, Cholowski is the guy that you want, and I think everybody else just kind of fits into
Okay.
a lower tier.
So we'll do this, Jeremy, just to get people engaged in the draft profiles. The people can decide who is the draft prospects we talk about at a high level next week. You brought up pitchers, so we're going to give folks a choice of two. Cam Fluke for Coastal Carolina, currently wedged in the top 10 college prospects, or Liam Peterson, who was a really highly regarded prep arm in the 2023 cycle, who pitches for the University of Florida. Probably 1 or 2 votes wins this, guys. So let us know who you want us. Let us know who you want us to talk about. Cam Fluke or Liam Peterson. We'll dig into one next week a little bit. Last notes, Jeremy, I want to touch on before we quick knock out some questions. Get out of here. Twins minor league players of the year were announced. Got to give the guys their flowers. I think we'll spend less time on the hitter than the pitcher, because I know you're more excited about one than the other. The Twins minor league hitter of the year was one Kalen Culpepper. Finished the year with a 289, 375, 469 line, a 138 WRC plus, 20 home runs, and how many steals? He went 25 steals, walked close to 10% of the time, struck out just 17 in 113 games, playing pretty stellar shortstop defense. About as good as you could hope for from a first full pro season, no?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he did hit that rough spot later in the year.
Yeah.
Yep. And probably tempered some of the maybe not unnecessary, the excitement or the belief that him and Brooks Lee could compete for a shortstop job next year.
Yeah.
But I think at some point during the year he could get a call and could potentially fill that role long term. I thought, and granted, this is me who watched less games, especially in September. I think Brooks Lee has a chance to be a decent shortstop. Is that fair or not fair?
I guess it depends what you mean by decent. Like, he's fine, sure. Let's put it this way: he's certainly a solid placeholder. Do you mean defensively, I guess, or just like as an all-around profile?
I mean, defensively, he's not going to be great, right? He's going to be serviceable defensively, and he's going to be an average shortstop. I'm really down on Brooks Lee, man. It's been such a disappointing season. I know he ran into like however many home runs it was, 16 or 17 or whatever, but he had like a 670 OPS. And the approach is just so bad. It's so bad. Like, he will not take a walk, and he chases way, way, way too much. And honestly, it's one of the biggest, like, I got to go back and read some like old scouting reports of him from his draft year, because I feel like the scouting report was good approach, like handles the strike zone well, good at bats, etc. And that's just not what we've seen as a pro. And so, but certainly a fine placeholder and someone you would feel fine about, hoping to see improvements from, at least for the first half of 2026, if not a bit longer. Yeah. I think there's enough there, at least, that you, like you said, he give him a chance. He may take hold of it. He's obviously good enough, I think, that you're not sending him down, right? We flirted with that a little bit, I think, during this year. But I do think like consistent playing time. He had back stuff to start the year. Like, if you start the year with back issues, do you ever feel right the whole year?
Who knows?
Right? I mean,
probably not.
And that's a huge deal. I think like with hands too, or hamstrings. Like, there's always going to be, over the course of 180 whatever 184 days, and you play 162 games. I just feel like a lot of guys need that full off season to recover.
For sure.
And if he ended the year healthy, you just hope that whatever his off season training is that he doesn't report spring training have back issues again.
For sure. Absolutely. And to be fair, that 2022 first round is looking pretty rough. I took a look at that list the other day, with the exception of the one other guy that the Twins were heavily connected with, one Zach Neto, who's putting up like 2.5 to 3.5 WAR seasons back to back. But let us not digress. Jeremy, Twins minor league pitcher of the year, I feel like probably excites you, certain Connor Prelip. 82.2 innings in 2025 across AA and AAA, a 4.03 ERA, but a 3.54 FIP, a 3.55 xFIP. Struck out 27% of hitters, walked just 8.5. Pretty exciting stuff, right? I think that's basically what we laid out at the beginning of the year, was like, just wanted to stay healthy and throw some strikes and get some guys out.
Yep. Yeah, he stayed healthy. Maybe didn't strike out as many as we thought, but I think there's still ceiling there.
For
and
sure.
How he's used long term, I think, is still kind of up for discussion.
Yep.
At this point, there's every reason to believe he could still be a starting pitcher, which I think is even better, right? Get a bunch of innings in. The team wasn't good enough to have to determine if he was going to be used out of the bullpen. Funderburk was a serviceable lefty late in the year, which shocks the living crap out of me. But yeah, I do like Prelip, and between him and Rojas, I think you're going to get two really live lefty arms that are going to be problematic, whether that's in a rotation, where in the rotation, or in the bullpen, and where in the bullpen. I think there's the range from top of the line to back of the bullpen. I think all of those options are open for either one of those guys.
Yep, absolutely. I want to just give an honorable mention to Dason Hill. I feel like he was probably the other candidate for Twins minor league pitcher of the year. 62 innings across low A and high A, 3.19 ERA, 3.35 FIP, struck out over 12 per 9. We know the walks are a thing, but also super exciting first pro season for him. That leads us, Jeremy, into some questions. We'll start with one from David, who from Cedar Rapids will be on the roster next year. And by this, what I believe he means is which players who finished this season at Cedar Rapids might start next season at Cedar Rapids. I'm going to whip through a few, and you can tell me like agree or disagree. And then I think there are a couple of like debatables that maybe we can talk about. So I was kind of looking through this as prep. I think Cedar Rapids is going to have a super fun rotation to start off next year. Here's the names: Charlie Soto, Dason Hill, Adrian Bajorquez, and then Cole Peschel, who was shoving until he went down with a season-ending injury. If that's your 1, 2, 3, 4, that's a pretty nasty rotation potentially. Other guys I think you might expect to see back there: Kadeem Jow, Eduardo Tait, because he just got moved up after he came over from the Phillies. Merrick Houston will definitely start the year in Cedar Rapids. Here are my questions for you. Billy Amick, who's going to the AFL, is he starting in Cedar Rapids or Wichita?
I think he'll start in Wichita based on what I have wrote in my little note section here like 6 weeks ago. Unless he's awful in the AFL.
Okay.
But I think the AFL is really designed to be like the finishing up of high A. It's going to be better than high A in my opinion.
Yeah,
and
for
if
sure.
he looks decent there, you move him up to double A. But I think that's one that could potentially be on the fence just because he missed as much as he did this year.
Other one who's in a similar situation in that he's going to the AFL, but not a similar situation because he played extensively, is Brandon Winokur. And I think we maybe talked about him, and we were both kind of on the fence. Strong opinion on whether he starts next year at Cedar Rapids or Wichita.
I think there's a better chance, obviously, than Amick that he starts at Cedar Rapids, but I think it's going to be how he does. If he goes to the AFL and strikes out in 40% of his at bats, he needs to go back to Cedar Rapids, and I don't think that's an awful thing for him.
For sure, super young.
But I do think that, I mean, in my notes here, I did have double A for him. Also had double A for DeBarge.
Okay.
So yeah, I think DeAndrade, I have him going up to double A, even though he's only 21 and a half years old. I did have Tait staying for one more year, and I had Zhao going up to double A, but he did miss the last part of the year too. So I mean that. And obviously, I don't like we put a lot of time into looking at those beginning of the season's rosters and where's it going to be and how's it going to fit. And a lot of times, I think it's kind of a numbers game, right? Where you can, if you err on the side of caution, you can always move a guy up. If you err on the side of let's push it and it doesn't go well, you could ruin a whole year. Again, why? Because I think baseball is a super, super mental sport that requires great physical gifts. But if you're weak mentally, it ain't good. It ain't gonna be good for you.
Yep. Okay, right on. That rotation I think should be super exciting. I would expect Cedar Rapids to be in the same situation they were this year, which is to say, well, I was going to say, Jeremy, that they would have a great first half of the year, maybe struggle more in the second half. But I didn't necessarily think through all of the pitchers that might come up from Fort Myers that the Twins drafted in the early rounds this year. So
They might be all right.
Yeah, Riley Quick in the mix. Max, there's a question from a couple of weeks ago that we're circling back to. This was around draft lottery odds. He said, something I've been enjoying is thinking through which teams would go for the best player, meaning Rock Chalowski, and which might, in the draft lottery, take an unexpected name like Eli Willits. Do you think any teams would pass on Chalowski, or is he that much of a slam dunk number one overall prospect? I feel like, I don't know.
He is that much of a slam dunk. However,
at the moment,
there are some really, really highly paid guys who think they're smarter than they are that would do something really stupid, right? Unless you have conviction that someone's close and you can get him and another guy and save the money. I just don't think in the 2026 draft as it stands on September 30th that anybody would say, let's pass on Chalowski. He could get hurt. He could have an awful year. He could have any of these things happen.
Yep.
But as of today, it just doesn't make sense for anyone to think that another direction's better to go in. I don't see it. Even the teams that you look at and you're like, well, what if they have a great shortstop already in place? Like the A's maybe, right? Wilson's there. You make for both of these guys in the dirt and you love it for the next handful of years. So is there anybody? Yeah, there probably is. There are some really stupid organizations out there. Am I wrong? I'm not wrong.
No, you're not. You're definitely wrong. The only thing we always say, the only thing you should expect is the unexpected to happen.
Right. Yep.
Last question from someone whose name I did not write down. I'm sorry. He said, assuming the Twins keep their second round pick, which they will, who are some options of folks that they might take in the 2026 draft? Now, I want to preface this by saying I think this is silly to speculate on at the moment because we're so far out. But I think the question is kind of driving at, like, what does the depth look like? Because the Twins' second pick, let's assume they keep top three, would be somewhere in the mid 40s probably. So like 44, 45, 46.
It wouldn't matter how the lottery goes. They're going to pick second. Actually,
there you go. No, you're right.
They're going to pick lower because the Rockies move back up. Those teams that got kicked out move back up. So they'll pick fourth in each round, third in each round, fourth,
fifth, the fourth, no, fifth, no, fourth. You're right, fourth. So we're looking at pick like 47-ish if we're using this year's draft as a proxy. I mean, there's tons and tons of college. I'm just going to rely on college names for the time being because I think it's a little bit safer. Jeremy, a name that might excite you, Zion Rose. Remember the prep catcher? He's now an absolute masher at Louisville, plays mostly in the outfield. Derek Curiel probably go off the board a little bit before. He was one of the top preps who didn't sign in 2023. There's a ton of interesting arms that might be there around that range. Tegan Coons is a hard-throwing righty from Tennessee. There's a couple of catchers there. Hunter Carnes, another guy from the 2023 class. Joey Volchko is a transfer. I think he transferred to Georgia from Stanford, throws 100. I mean, you're going to get a guy. You're going to get a high ceiling type player. And if you manage to keep a top 3 pick, you're going to be able to pay them handsomely. So there's a few names, and I'm sure we'll dig into many, many more before we get to next July.
Yeah. Do you have a board started yet?
Maybe got a top 30 already. Nothing beyond that though yet. I finally feel like we're gonna actually benefit from people's excitement and attention around the draft next year. So I gotta do a good job.
If there's anybody that still cares about the Twins at that time.
Yeah, but you know what? Everyone can. I feel like you know this best of all because you truly are a fan of all drafts. Everyone can coalesce around like a number 1 or number 2 overall pick, even if you're unexcited about your team. Generally,
yeah, I do think that one of the benefactors in this thing is going to be the Saints are going to be super popular.
Yeah, as they should be. They deserve it. All right, that'll do us for today. We will be back with another episode a week or so from now. I'm sure there will be lots more off-season news to discuss. We'll continue surfacing names for the 2026 draft. Hopefully, I'll have another 100 or so draft sims done by this time next week. Until then, enjoy the playoff baseball. Hope everyone's cheering on the Brewers and the Mariners. Catch you guys next week.